Hi, Happy New Year, and welcome back to the first show of the year for Insights on Leadership in Life. I'm your host, Roberta Pickett, Leadership and Life Coach. And as we begin each year, so many people talk about their intentions for the year. But rarely do people follow through on everything that they intend. One of the things I believe is that people who are bold and brave enough to create a vision for themselves are more likely to achieve that vision during their lifetime. It's actually what I call leading your life rather than just living it. Tonight's show, that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about intentionally creating your life, intentional living, intentional creativity. And those people who are brave enough to get past what life throws at them and move on to something that's bigger and brighter and more beautiful and more better for their lives. My guest this evening is Wendy Ward. She's my neighbor from Amador County, and although we just met a few months ago, I feel like I've met a kindred spirit. So yes. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad that you can be here with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
What I do know about Wendy in the short time that we've been friends is that you're an artist, and that your passion is really about helping women to bring out their soul, to bring out the essence of who they are and be able to live it in that world. Is that a good?
That's good. That's good. Yes.
Good summary, I guess, if you will. But you have a whole lot bigger story behind you. And as we've talked over the last few months, are you willing to share some of that with us?
Yes, I will. I'll be glad to share.
Okay, because it's really personal. And so those of, to the audience who's watching, I just want to acknowledge before Wendy really gets started that what she's about to share is very personal. And I give her so much credit for being willing to talk about this topic, because it's not something that's always out there, and it takes a lot of courage to do so. So with that, thanks, Wendy. So tell us about who you are.
Well, who I am, it's been a long journey. It's been an interesting life when I look back and think about it. I started off, I lived in Ohio. I was born in Ohio. And my parents built a little log cabin, and we lived next to the river. And it was a very, I love being there. And when I think about that time, I really realized those were the roots of when I knew really who I was. Even though I was young and I grew up into high school, I knew that I loved nature and water, and I loved the creativity, and it was just a real good basis for me to really understand who. I mean, I used to string buckeyes, that was my little creative.
Very Ohio-ish.
Yes, very Ohio-ish. So I had that basis and sort of that really good, strong upbringing. And as I got older, well, I went to college, and then I moved to California, and I actually ended up, I was actually married at the time, and I married very young. I was in my early 20s, and we moved to California, and I met, he decided that he wanted to separate. So it was we weren't even married a year yet. It was a very devastating time for me, and I was very vulnerable. I was very, vulnerable is probably the best, and devastated. And yet I didn't want to go back to Ohio. I felt like I had made plans of what it was going to happen in California, so I wanted to stay. Well, the neighbor that we lived next to sort of stepped forward. We had met him and talked to him, and he was very charming, and he worked at Head Start, and he was into computers, and this was in the late 70s, which actually computers were just really becoming a big deal.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have a career per se. I took art in school. I majored in fine art, and so he kind of encouraged me because I was going to be on my own to get into computers, and so I went to Ohlone College. This was in Fremont. And he really supported me and kind of helped me and got me on my feet. Well, I got involved with him, and very soon found out he wanted to move in temporarily, and I sort of felt obligated. This is where that intuition comes in, where you feel like, even though everything was going very well, I really didn't.
Part of you that felt like maybe not.
Yeah, well, and I didn't want to live with anybody. I really wanted to be you know, I was trying to get my feet set and start
Right.
this new life, and I really didn't want to be involved, but I felt obligated. So I said, okay, temporarily you can move in. And as soon as he moved in, he became a different person. And he became very abusive psychologically and physically. And it was a very, very, very bad time, a very difficult time, and it escalated to the point where he said if I left him, that he would kill me.
How long a period of time were you with him?
About, you know, I think it was probably about 8 months. It wasn't even a year of that, where it escalated.
A lifetime.
A lifetime,
Yeah.
yes. It doesn't take long, and there were some very serious things that happened. So I decided that I would move out, and I had a few friends that, you know, everything was secret. That's the whole thing about abusive relationships.
Well, this was way back in the 70s as well,
was.
so it was a whole different environment in terms of talking about this
Yes.
and being open about
Yes,
it. Yeah.
yes, very. It's something
Still not talked about that
Yes.
much, but back then it was even way
really
worse. Yeah.
taboo. Yeah. So I moved out when he was at work and tried to hide my tracks and everything. I went to the post office and said, "Can you not show, you know, where?" And they didn't know what to do. Nobody knew what to do with this. And so he found me, and then he began stalking me, and ended up with some very bad times. So that whole situation really was psychologically and physically damaging.
Right.
And you know, and I did report to the police. I had 5 felony charges against him and was not able to get him convicted. I had 1 plea bargain against him, it ended up being, but I wasn't able to get a conviction. And so it was a very, something that at the time, and I know this sounds crazy, but victims' assistants even said, "You're fine." I think I have this internal is different than my external, because I wasn't fine. I was really broken in a lot of pieces, and I really had quite a bit to process, but nobody could see that, and I continued to work.
You were very good at hiding it.
I was very good at hiding it, and I was very good at, you know, I hardly missed any work. I just kept working, and as time went on, it just got buried, and it got buried for a long time. So that's one part of my life that has really affected things, that has affected me.
So fast forward, that was 35 years ago. What happened since then? So you're now doing. You're an artist. You are. You continue to paint, and where did you go with the rest of your life? After it sounds like you got him out of your life, and you moved on. More challenges happening of different times. I lost a lot of people to death. I lost my sister committed suicide in 2000. Boy.
My mother and father died right after that, within 3 years, and so that was my immediate family. So there were these deaths also that sort of happened, and that I wasn't really able to process. I'm just a little trooper.
So you got to this bad part, you moved on, life happened and continued, and then all of a sudden another series of crises happened.
Yes, yes, and it, you know, it's not just me. Oh, poor me. That's not at all. But it's just these things that, you know, you feel sort of like, okay, I'm getting on my feet here, and then something kind of whacks you and just moves you back. And I started off as an artist, and I left that all behind. You know, I really became, in a lot of ways, it was survival mode, and I got into corporate America, and I was an applications programmer for a while. I was, I had actually a couple of different careers, but they were all, for me, I could do them, and I could do them well, but they weren't soulful for me, and it eventually really sucked more of my soul away. So I've had a lot of years, a big chunk of my life of doing things that I felt I had to do, or responding to crisis or
just
situations.
Surviving.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And so the art, really, I didn't have the energy to do the art. After coming home from working, I didn't have the energy to do it. So I set it aside for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I know there's more to this story because I've heard a little bit of it beforehand, but we have to take a break for our commercial break, and we will be right back. So don't go away, because we want to hear about what Wendy has to share and really about the rest of her story. So come on back in a few minutes for the rest on leadership and life.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN. And now back to Insights on Leadership and Life with your host, Roberta Pickett.
Hi, welcome back to Insights on Leadership and Life. I'm your host, Roberta Pickett, and this evening our guest is Wendy Ward. And thank you, Wendy, for sharing at least a part of your story so far with us. It's really, it's hard to hear about, but I also want to say thank you, because I think there's a lot of people out there who've had bad things happen in their life. Mm-hmm. And what I'm hoping for tonight is that your courage to move forward and to get out of that place and to move on with your light will also give some of our audience the opportunity to do the same, the courage to do the same, to the hope to know that you can make a change, move on, and good things can still happen. So you were telling us that you were in the corporate world. You had moved on with your career, but you really weren't painting.
No.
So how did then what happened?
What's the rest of the story?
Yeah.
Oh, well, about 3 years ago, so this kind of went on and working, and I actually became a financial consultant and did that for about 5 years. And about 3 years ago, I was married, and we were living in Santa Rosa, and we decided to semi-retire and come up to Somerset area in Placerville.
Nice, beautiful area.
Yeah. We bought a beautiful home. It was a dream home. We moved up there and was going to finally do it, right?
Right.
I was going to semi-retire and nature and all this beautiful area and get back into art, and he was going to do what he wanted to do. Well, we were there for 2 months, and he complained about a toothache, and he went to a dentist, found a dentist, and said they couldn't find anything wrong, and so it got so bad that night that I said, I'm going to take you to emergency. So I bundled him up, and we were going down this curvy, unknown road, and he seized up in the car, and he had a heart attack, and he never made it. He didn't. When the ambulance caught up with us, he died, and so that was a very huge shock for me, and so I sold the house, sold that house, and I ended up in Amador.
Okay, guys,
I know,
not enough.
I know. It's like, okay, now what? So I ended up in Amador County. I ended up here. I've been here for a couple years, and I have like this little bit of money, and I'm young, but I'm not, not too young. So I'm at that point of I need to do something. I can't stop working like what we had planned together. I've got to do something and to move on and supplement with the little money that I have. So I decided the first thing that happened actually was I got this inkling that I wanted to write about, it was some urge to process some of the things that had happened. So there was a nonfiction, a creative nonfiction class given in Jackson, and so I signed up for that. And the teacher was very much into, I want you to dig down, I want you to tell your story and dig down. And you know, even when I went, I wasn't sure what area I was going to focus on, but I did focus on that 35-year, you know, that 30,
Yeah.
what happened 35 years ago. So I focused on that, and I found that digging into that sort of cracked open a lot, because not only had I suppressed and done what I was supposed to in survival, but I also wasn't speaking out. It was something that really, I had been strangled in that situation, and something about that strangulation really bottled me up, and it really did stop me from speaking.
Your throat chakra was totally closed.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. It was very tightly closed. And so this process of writing really was one of the cracks that started to open up. And then I decided, you know, she's talking about the arc, you know, of where were you and what happened, what obstacles did you get over, and where did you end up? And I started looking at where did I end up, and I thought, how do I want to end up? What do I want this ending to look like? Because I was writing from this point and going this way.
Right.
And so I thought, I want to do my art. I want to do my art. And so I took a class in Sacramento, and she had taken this class that I subsequently took, and it opened up a whole nother.
So this
Yes.
is a result of one of the classes you took?
This was the class, it's called Color of Woman, and it's Shiloh Sophia is the teacher. It's a 6-month course, and this was my first painting. And you know, I'd done art before, and this was a very different way of doing it, because the art I did before was out-based, focused outwardly. And so this is painting inwardly coming out. And so it was a very different way to paint for me.
So is this a representation, art-wise, of some of your inner soul, some
Yes.
of your inner struggles, that sort of thing? Can you talk to us about that?
Well, part of the process is that you do visualization, and so you're accessing these deeper parts of yourself. Now, this one, and you're going with intentional creativity, you're going after something. It's not, you have an intention, and the intention here, for me, was to focus on heart. And so there's a lot of symbols in here, just like there are in your dreams. I mean, when you start accessing that inner world, you have a lot of dream-like visions that come. And so the difficult part is to try to represent that. You know, in her crown, this is the queen of her own heart, and so her crown has fire in it, and the heart has fire, and she's in this watery element. And so there's this fire in this water, for me, is very important. These, even though as an artist I look at okay, this needs work, okay, but that's the whole point of this,
Right.
is it's not, you know, yes, I can work on this, but these are water lilies, even though they need a little work. But the whole thing about water lily, the roots being in the muck, coming up through the water, and then having this beautiful, lovely, open flower.
Not only surviving, but actually part of its creation is because it was in the muck.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And on top of the water. So that's symbolic. There's some snakes in here, which are transformational for me, symbolism.
Well, a little bit of other things they can symbolize too. Yeah. Negative.
Healing and I mean, there's a lot of so there's a lot of different. And the thing when you paint this, and of course this thing in the throat that has happened in a lot of these paintings for me is it really is indicative of opening up for me to speak, and that's really important, to speak, and that connection of to the heart, speaking open, speaking from the heart, and spiritually also.
Well, I want to acknowledge you for tonight, because you are speaking. You're speaking not only to me, but you're also speaking to an audience whom you don't know, but who the statistics say 1 3 women a day in the United States are killed
Yeah.
as a result of some sort of domestic violence.
Yeah.
So I know there are a lot of people out there to whom you're talking to their world, and yet the heart, the queen of your heart has survived. And this is very powerful. I understand. So you now are doing a 3-day workshop. So you're offering healing, if you will, or a way to find some healing to women.
Right.
So that's coming up, I understand, next weekend?
The 17th. It's a 3-day.
So a week from now.
Middle of January.
So what's it called?
Well, it's Intentional Creativity, Color of Woman, 3-day workshop, but it's really focusing on, because it's the beginning of the year, I thought, let's talk about goals, but let's do it in a very soulful way. So we're going to dig down into our desires, our deepest desires.
Yeah. And so you based this workshop that you're doing on what you learned from this woman in Jackson? Or no, that was the starting, because that was the writing, and then it moved to the art, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, and now they're kind of combining, and the course I took with this was how to learn the method and how to teach it. So it was
So what's your vision for the workshop?
My vision for the workshop is to work with the participants and have a space for them. I mean, everybody has to do their own work. This is not something that's given to you or anything. You have to be willing to do the work. And that actually they can uncover some of the deepest desires of what is it that, there's stories that run us. I mean, it's these things, we talked about the things that can happen in life. These things can create these grooves because you start taking these stories in and you start believing them, and you just listen and listen and listen.
And you believe that's the only reality there is. That there's nothing else, but that's not true.
It's not true. And this type of thing, I mean, this is just one way to go after it, is that you're getting to those, you're uncovering the stories. I mean, there's a process in here that happens that, there's symbolism here, but there's a process that happens. And it's looking at what we're telling ourselves and how we can transform it into something more positive. So this workshop is about desires, and if we have goals, are they addressing those really deep desires? I mean, we can do our lists of goals with the left brain, but let's let the right brain come in and have something to say with this too.
I was just going to say, a lot of times we end up just focusing on our left brain because it's a little bit safer there, and maybe not explore the creative side of our right.
Right, yeah.
So do you find, because you mentioned you've done multiple paintings, do you have other ones?
Yes, I've done several, and so each one has a different focus, a different intention. There's another one over here that this is a different.
Just have a minute or so left to talk about it, but talk about this one, because it's still you. It's a different time.
Different. This one happens to have things that have happened in life written on strips of paper and pasted on here and then painted over.
And what's the metaphor there?
Looking at it and transforming it. I mean, here I've got names of people that have passed away that I've loved, and what I have overcome is part of my fabric. So it was all part of this up here victory. These are other things that have happened, and painting over it and looking at it's like I've survived it. I've survived it. Instead of being a victim about it, I've survived it.
And more than just a survivor, you're victorious. You're victorious. I love how you had it, and all the old stuff, and you painted over them literally to create the new. So the physical act as well as the creative act is combining to have a powerful healing, I would imagine.
Yeah, and that's,
well, gosh, there's so much more to talk about. But we are going to take another break and come back in a few minutes after our commercial break. So don't, hold some more thoughts for us, because there's lots to share. And audience, please come back and join us after the break for insights on leadership in life.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN. And now back to Insights on Leadership in Life with your host, Roberta Pickett.
Welcome back, everybody, to this evening's program on Insights on Leadership in Life. Our guest tonight, Wendy Ward, has been sharing an earful with us about her story and also what she's been doing to change both her life and to help change the lives of others. And I'm very excited about that. In fact, I'm going to be attending her workshop as well this coming weekend, so I'm going to be learning a lot too, I know. I think it's fair to say that you have experienced some pretty horrible and devastating experiences in the past, and yet you've continued to recover and to reclaim and to re-energize, and I just think that's really powerful. So you've chosen art as one of the ways as an outlet, but I think you mentioned also that you do some writing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So how, when you say writing, how do you write? How do you utilize writing as an outlet for you?
When I took the class, and by the way, the teacher's name is Sarah Luck Pearson. I have to give her a plug because she's very good.
And she's here local.
She is, and
great.
she gives classes periodically, so she's great. When I write, I can write on this book. I call it a book now because it's, it's contained, and it does have the arc and all that type of thing, so I can work on that. But then I'm finding that I'm bringing in the art with that, and so I may work on that, and it might be a really hard part for me to write, and then if I take a journal and put some art into it and put some art and say, well, why am I doing this, and work it with, there's something organic about the physical, and it's just like in this, when we do the painting, it's giving us a place to put this stuff.
So it sounds like sometimes the words just won't come out, or the right words don't quite express what you're trying to, what you feel.
Yes.
Whereas and the art allows you a different way to get
it out, or to process it, or to look at it in a different way, or just not be contained by trying, because writing is very left brain, and art, to me, this type of art is more left. So it is kind of right, yes. I have trouble with the right. Go this way.
That's okay.
But this side and this side, yes. But it's meshing the two, I think. It's mashing and meshing, and it's not just all in the head with the writing and trying to struggle to come up with the right words. For me, that art is an outlet to create and bring something else to it. It's kind of like the goal setting, writing them down, but making sure that the other part, the juicy...
The vision of the goal completed, what it's really going to give you, and how you're going to benefit, and how your life's going to change.
How are you going to feel? Not, I want the house on the hill, but what is it that you're really looking to feel? How do you want to feel when you're got
in
the
house on the hill?
Yes,
yeah.
and
beautiful.
Which gives it a deeper, more juicy piece.
And I don't know if you believe in it, but the law of attraction, it talks about, when the more you can put out there the vision and create in your mind, that's where creation comes from anyway. First is, it starts from nothing.
Yes.
We create, we have a thought, and then we put it into words, and then we create something that's physical from that. So there's the power to envisioning something in the future and then working towards it.
Yeah.
Very powerful. So I found a few quotes that made me think of some of the things that you're working on. This first one is from Albert Einstein, and it's, "I have never I never made one of my discoveries through the process of rational thinking. So what do you think he was saying there? I never made one of my discoveries through the process of rational thinking.
I think the way it reads to me is that, and I'm going to refer back to this. When this process is not me painting this. This process is actually going down deeply and learning to listen to a different voice to say, I want this. I want you to paint this. Even though I don't know how to paint it, I don't care. I want you to paint this. This is what I want. And so it's releasing and it's allowing and it's opening that channel of a different voice besides just the rational voice.
Because if you'd only listened to your art-savvy voice, would you have painted this?
No, and it would be,
would
be this, in a sense, the art critic, right?
Yeah.
It's the art critic saying, well, her lips
didn't make a beautiful water lily.
This needs some more petals. It needs, some more definition in there. So that's the art critic. It's just another version of the critic, really.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. So Einstein said he had to go listen to a different voice in order to come up with a new discovery.
Yes.
Something new within himself. Add to, maybe, but not from the old. And here's another quote, this one from Leonardo da Vinci, another good one to listen to. The painter, I like this, the painter has the universe in his mind and hands. Mm-hmm, mm-to The painter has the universe in his mind and in his hands. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean?
Similar, to me it's a similar sense of not allowing it to allowing things, tapping in and allowing that to happen. Dr. Estes wrote Women Who Run with Wolves, the Rio, Abajo Rio, the river beneath the river. I think that image is beautiful to me. I think there is underneath the subconscious, however you want to refer to it, there's a whole flow of things that's very rich that we can tap into. Yeah. With real different kinds of answers that are on the outside. I mean, look at what we're bombarded with daily, with these images of what things should happen.
And how they should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are tossed around by other people's agendas of what they want us to do. And so this is really an opportunity, and I think what they were referring to is really listening to that inner, what's going on inner. And there's a lot of answers here. Wisdom.
I love that. And I love how you're so animated, because it's clear that you feel it. You're not just spouting the words.
Yes.
You feel it in your gut, and I think it shows in your painting too. This last one, this one hits it too. This one's from Stella Adler, and she said, "Life beats down and crushes the soul, and art reminds you that you have one."
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's viewing other people's art too, is to remind what speaking to you on a different level. It's, I mean, you can analyze it, or you can allow that emotion to fill you, of what you feel from that.
You can respond.
Yes.
Yeah. So, we've been talking a lot about your experiences, and you've created a workshop that's coming up soon. I think it's full, but if someone's interested in either this one or a future workshop, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, I have a couple things. I have a website. It's www.themermaidmuse.com. So it's got to have the in there. It's the Mermaid Muse.
M-U-S-E?
Yes, .com. That's one.
Okay.
My email is mermaid.wendy@yahoo.com.
Mermaid.wendy@yahoo.com. Good.
Or you can find me on Facebook through The Mermaid Muse on Facebook also.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So lots of different ways. So I'm hoping, for your sake, that you get a lot of queries about it, because I really feel like I know when I read it, and the first time I saw the your flyer, it had the Rio Abajo Rio,
Yes.
and that spoke to me.
Yeah.
The river beneath the river. It's
Yes.
like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know, there's something that needs to come out.
Yes.
And
Yes.
finding what that is, I think for so many of us, and I don't know whether it's just women, but I know a lot of us women feel
Yes.
that. And for you guys out there, it's not that I'm excluding you, but this one happens to talk to us. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I just have a question about creativity itself. What do you feel about the creative process? I mean, do you feel like life itself is a creative process? What's your philosophy on that? I know that's sort of a broad topic that we have about a minute and a half to talk about, but I think it really plays into all of this.
You know, I think the world is creative, and even though I said, you know, I stopped and didn't pick up a paintbrush or a ink pen or anything for many years, we're all creative in our own ways. I think when you look at a color, or when you decide you want to do this, and we all do it in different ways. The world is creative. The world is creating itself constantly and renewing itself and changing and evolving. And I mean, creativity is everything to me.
Well, it is, and so we've gotten into some great conversations. I love it, but we're going to take another break, and we'll be right back in a few minutes.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN, Insights on Leadership and Life, with your host, Roberta Pickett.
Hello, everyone. We are having an amazing evening tonight on Insights on Leadership and Life with our guest, Wendy Ward. I'm Roberta Pickett. I'm your host for this show. Tonight's topic is all about women finding their soulful, beautiful selves and not letting what life has given you or dealt you that might be negative to keep you down. It might get you down for a while, but it doesn't have to keep you down. There are resources out there to help. Right here in Amador County, we have something called Operation Care that really is out there to help people who are in domestic violence situations. There are a lot of different programs around the country and around the world to help not just women, because men can be in these situations as well. But you know, the other thing I was thinking about as we were talking is that it's not just bad relationships or violence in a relationship that can happen to us. We can also get stuck in just bad tapes, you know, things where we start telling ourselves that maybe I don't deserve that, or I'm not worth it, or I'm not good enough, or I can't do that, I don't know how. And so we get stuck in a place like that, right?
Yeah.
What other messages, I call them the gremlin messages, but what other gremlin messages have you heard of, or that, you know, that might get stuck out there?
Well, I think, and we sort of touched on this before, but I think a lot of the images, and if we do speak to feminine, and I apologize too to the males, but I personally feel like we really need to boost up our feminine side. I mean, as a society, and you know, I mean, I really feel like there's a lot of ways that mysterious, feminine, juicy part can get stomped down, and I think that some of the messages that we get from advertising, and they're not necessarily healthy messages of how we should be as women. I think that's a certain image is not necessarily how we should view ourselves and what's really important about that feminine part of us.
So how do, you know, one of the ways that I know to get out of those tapes that we play incessantly, or that we keep digging the rut a little bit deeper, so it's hard to get out of it. If I'm not smart enough, I don't know the right people, I can't do that, I don't deserve it. I think that's a lot of it. I always screw things up. I hear that from my clients a lot. But I think it's so important that we watch, that we pay attention and observe the conversations that we have with ourselves. Because we're all doing our little self-talk, good or bad, in our head continuously. And I think that the words we use in our head are extremely powerful. Because you know how you were talking about creativity, I believe that the world is continuously evolving, and what that means is it's changing, it is being created. Some things die off, some things rebirth or birth and come to life. And so our conversations, the words we use in our head, have power too. If we say, I can't do that, our mind doesn't know the difference in our body. You've made a statement, a definitive statement, so you're actually shutting off creative juices when you say those negative things to yourself, let alone when someone else says them to you. But so I really believe that affirmations and using positive language is very powerful. Do you use affirmations at all? Or?
I do, but I also I also find that sometimes I need to dig deeper to find what they are. I mean, I really need to, and not everybody wants to do that.
No, I know.
Not everybody wants. So there's some hesitation of, well, I don't want people to see my dirty laundry, but. You know what? We're so alike that it's scary. I mean, there really is, and
I'll cop up to it. So one of my things is always, it used to be the big things. I don't have enough time, or I don't have enough money. So I ended up creating one that really works for me, and it's not going to be everybody's, but it's mine. And for me, it's I have more than enough time, money, energy, and ability to take care of the things I need to, and to do the things I choose to. So that's when I start getting agitated and frustrated with life, or feeling like I'm out of it, I come back to it, I take some deep breaths, and I state that out loud, kind of from that position of power, standing up straight or sitting up straight, and really believing in the words that I'm saying to myself. Because the reality is I do. I have enough time to do what I need to do.
But what I heard you say...
Money, energy, and ability.
Right. What I heard you say was not get all the things done that I have to do on my list, but the things that are important to you.
Exactly.
To you. Not somebody else, maybe. Maybe somebody else wants you to do something. You may not get to it. So that's a huge shift right there, I think.
Yes, because it allows me to put boundaries and to say, this is what's valuable to me. And to make choices. So I have a few little cards. A girlfriend of mine a number of years ago gave me this deck of cards, and I think I lost the rest of them, but I have these left. So they're kind of it was a little box of affirmations, which I thought was kind of cute. But because people sometimes say, well, what are affirmations, or how do you write them? So these are just some ideas. You want to pick one? Pick a card, any card.
All right, I've got one.
Okay. And I think both sides have something, and they're both on a similar topic. So what did you end up picking?
Good. Mine says, I delight in the financial security that is a constant in my life. And the other side says, I move from poverty thinking to prosperity thinking, and my finances reflect this change.
So that's a good one.
Yes.
Because so many of us, and especially in today's economy, we all can get in there. I need money. I need money. I need it more, and I don't have enough. I don't have enough. All that negative thought. And so what affirmations do is really state your desired state in the positive as if it's already occurred, as if it's already now. Right?
Yes. And that goes back to the law of attraction. If you're putting that out there, that I delight in the financial security that is the constant in my life.
Yeah, it's
I've got
always
it.
there. I have it.
I have that,
Yeah.
and beginning to act as though, right?
Exactly. So that's beautiful. So pick one.
What? You pick one.
Okay, you give me one. Okay. Ooh, life.
Oh.
Okay. I am now willing to be open to the unlimited prosperity that exists everywhere. I am now willing to be open to the unlimited prosperity that exists everywhere. And of course, that's not just talking about money. It's
No.
talking about whatever we need. And the other side says life. Life supplies all my needs in great abundance. I trust life. With a capital L.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I think, to me, that speaks back to that universe, that that inner self or the outer self or whatever it is, whether we call it God, the universe,
Yeah.
Our higher knowing, a higher being, something. There's something else that is bigger than all of us.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Wow. Whew, we got in good tonight. I love this.
We dove deep.
We did. So, you know, you have shared a lot. Would you mind telling some of the end of the story to the guy who abused you? Would you mind sharing the end of that story?
Sure. Yes. That happened to me in 1979, and you know, as I said, I buried it and tried to forget about it and moved on. In 2006, a policeman came. I was living in Santa Rosa, and a policeman came up to the door and gave me the card of a detective in Auburn, and said, "Can you call this detective?" And I said, I think, why?
Yeah.
So,
Who, me? Did I do something wrong?
This doesn't make sense. Anyway, he asked me if he looked me up. He found the old police report from Fremont, which was just part of what was left of it. He contacted me, and he was investigating the same person who had left Thunder Valley Casino with a woman, and she had disappeared, and they were investigating her missing.
We have about 1 minute. So
Okay.
this was in 2006, and the gentleman that ended up getting convicted for her murder.
They did prove it. It was without a body case. It was a very big deal in Auburn.
Yeah, very unusual. I remember the case.
Placer County.
And that was the same guy?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
my God.
Yes.
Well, Wendy, you know, it's hard to fathom what you've been through. And the other thing that's hard to fathom is that you're not alone. I mean,
No.
it's horrible what happened to you, and it's horrible to know that there are so many other people that this happens to.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the statistics that was out there that I mentioned, the three deaths a day across the United States, but every 9 seconds a woman in the U.S. is assaulted and beaten. That's horrible.
Yeah.
And that domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women, more than car accidents, muggings, and rapes combined. So,
Yeah.
you know, what I want to say to you is thank you for persisting, and thank you for going down deep and reaching in and coming back out and being the Queen of Hearts and for the fire and the water, because I really see that, and for being a ray of hope for other people who are going through it. Thank you very much for being my guest this evening
Thank
on
you.
Insights in Leadership in Life, and I hope all of you enjoyed this evening's show, and we'll come back again next month when we have a new topic. Take good care.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.